I've used Bitcoin in Michael Saylor's villa to buy a drink, and I've used Bitcoin in shanty towns in Africa and Latin America, places that don't have roofs, people don't have shoes.
Hi, and welcome to Stackuj podcast. This time, our guest is the always smiling Joe Nakamoto. We discuss the Bitcoin adoption, differences between Global South and the West, because Joe has traveled the world and has seen Bitcoin adoption in all corners of the world. We cover some fun stories, like why Joe is no longer supposed to be in Cuba and how that came about and what would happen if he came back to Cuba. And we also discuss some content creation tips because Joe is an independent Bitcoin journalist and his currently most popular video is on Bitcoin mining in Kenya. So Joe shares some tips how to make a viral video. This show is brought to you by Firefish. Firefish.io is a platform for non-custodial Bitcoin lending based on Bitcoin multisig. So the very basic principles of Firefish are transparency and security, as it is all built on the Bitcoin multisig. You can use the code Stackuj for 30% of the fees on your first deal. Go to firefish.io and check it out. This show is also brought to you by brains.com. And Brains is a company building Bitcoin mining tools. One of those tools is the Brains Mini Miner. You can check out the Brains store and use the code Stackuj for 10% off the Brains Mini Miner for your home mining needs. And now let's go for the episode with Joe. All right, it's that time of the year again. I'm recording a couple of English episodes for my Stackuj podcast, which is usually Czech only. So I have a very special guest today in the Trezor studios, and I would like to thank the Trezor company for offering the opportunity to record in this beautiful studio. And my guest today is Joe Hall, also known as Joe Nakamoto. Actually, most people don't know your real name and think, some people actually think Joe Nakamoto is your real name.
Yeah, we're about to bleep out my actual real name now, guys. Joe Bleep.
So Joe is a Bitcoin journalist, previously a crypto journalist at Cointelegraph from 2021 to 24. But I always got the impression you're more of a Bitcoin journalist, even though you work for Cointelegraph. You are definitely my favorite journalist.
In
that magazine, yeah.
In that magazine?
In that magazine, yeah. No, but even nowadays.
Yeah.
Even if when you're working as an independent, Joe is working as an independent content creator at Joe Nakamoto on YouTube, probably other channels as well. Mm-hmm. So to start it off, please tell us, how do you actually become like a Bitcoin journalist? What did you do before? Did you want to do it like when you were a small kid?
Wow, I like that opening question. And also, yeah, thank you, Joseph. It's lovely to see you again. My first day back in Prague. And I mean, I think we've seen each other in lots of exotic and wild locations around the world. So it's nice to be in your hometown again. And thank you also to Trezor as well. It's a very, very cool podcast studio come office space. It's well worth checking out. And it does prove that Prague is the OG Bitcoin destination, not just in Europe, but I think worldwide. I think we can say that, it is so OG. So yeah, I'm very grateful and happy to be here, and it's cool of you to reach out and say, do you want to come on the pod and talk about me? Because usually it's me asking people questions as a journo, and it's funny because the term Bitcoin journalist, it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. I was at a wedding last week with some of my normie, for want of a better word, friends, and I was introduced to some people and they were like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I was like, oh, I'm a Bitcoin journalist. And they look at me like, what? You can make journalism about Bitcoin and Bitcoin's still a thing. Like I heard about that years ago, and isn't it dead? And you're like, oh yeah, it's actually better than ever, stronger than ever, more decentralized than ever. And that price thing does keep going up and to the right. So it's I guess in a way it's a new term or a new-ish term. But Bitcoin needs journalism. Bitcoin certainly needs better journalism. And that's one thing that drives me and motivates me in the space, is to ask why more and look at the truth behind the headlines and also query a lot of those really bad headlines. But to answer your question, what got me into journalism? I've just always liked the truth, really. I've always liked getting to the truth of the matter, and I've always liked being curious. That's like one sort of primary tenet to journalism. And then I also realized early on in my career that journalists get to see the world and they get access and they get privy to conversations that normal people don't. Like not normal, but like you just get to see behind the curtain. You get to see how the sausage is made. And I've just found that fascinating. And, there's lots of conversations that I can and will have offline that I'll never take online because, of course, I know you can't trust a journalist, but you can trust some journalists. And I'd like to think that you can trust me. There are certain things that I would, I know about you and I know about the space that I would never disclose publicly. And I think that is a really important tenet of journalism too. Particularly the idea of not disclosing sources, particularly when it comes to challenging situations. But yeah, so I had the truth thing in me that I was always sort of a core value, I guess. I like the idea that you can travel as well with journalism. And I like that you got access to these sort of exclusive sort of insider information that you could then sometimes juggle with. And the final thing is that I've always loved languages and I speak French, Spanish and Portuguese. I have awful Italian, as Ricky and Laura and Giacomo will all attest to. And I find that, that combination points to a few careers, and journalism is the one that I've had the most fun with, the most enriching experience with. And then on top of that, with the Bitcoin part in it as well, it's kind of the closest thing I've got to being the ikigai, the diagram thing. Like I feel like Bitcoin journalism is as close as it can be to Bitcoin journalism. If I could do Bitcoin journalism and then also write the music to the documentaries that I make, then I think I'd be like, that would be the ikigai. That's like the ultimate goal. But AI is doing all of that now. So I'm going to be out of a job pretty soon. So
beautiful. No, I don't think so, because you bring like a lot of fun and just energy into your videos, your interviews. So I'm just wondering, what's the difference between a journalist, a podcaster, and an educator? Because a lot of things that you do could be described as like education, or podcasting. So why did you choose the term journalist? What's like the how would you define it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that also it's really interesting because there are also podcast journalists, right? There are also video journalists, and there are some people that were journalists, for example, in the Bitcoin space, that are now just become podcasters. So this is a Bitcoin podcast. It's about money. I think ultimately ends up being down to the money and who's paying you and what you're being paid for. I think that if a podcaster was to turn around and tell you, I'm a journalist, and then they do start asking some good questions, then I would also be wondering who is paying these podcast journalists and where that money is coming from, because that might end up influencing what they're saying. And you would probably go as far as saying that's probably paid propaganda, right? But assuming we're in the free world, which we are, and we're in a country which values freedom of speech and being able to openly acknowledge and disclose biases, I think that like journalism for me is that ability to speak the truth to power, and to question things and to effectively stake your reputation or your credibility on the line sometimes for greater issues and greater questions. And in the Bitcoin space, I've done that quite a few times recently, whether it's, I was not at Bitcoin Vegas. I won't be back invited to the Bitcoin conferences, I don't think anytime soon, because I keep questioning and calling out what David Bailey does with a lot of his investments, and the ethical thing is another thing. But the issue I see with a Bitcoin magazine, for example, and Bitcoin Inc., BTC Inc., the fact that you can have a CEO of BTC Inc. platforming companies at his conference that he gets in early on the stock to, and then uses those platforms to raise their profile and then get a good return. I find that quite worrying, and I call it out. And now I'm not going to be going to any of his conferences anymore.
And that's very hard to call out if you're sponsored by Bitcoin Magazine or BTC INC, or want to have a good spot at the conference, of course.
Exactly, which is crucial because that is the biggest crypto conference in the world, and it is really important, especially if you're up and coming in that space. And I realize that myself, because now I'm, to some extent, in some Bitcoin circles, people do know my content a little bit, but in the wider crypto sphere, I'm not known at all. And some of that is because of going on stage at these conferences. But I got to a point where I was like, I need to speak the truth here. I find this troubling, and I find this these practices not in line with what I believe to be true and what I believe to be right. And so I think that's the sort of journalism aspect. Then the podcasting, well, yeah, it's mostly entertainment, right? We listen to podcasts when we're doing the dishes or when we're walking a dog. I sometimes like to imagine there's someone listening to us right now who's walking their dog and it's just nodding along going, yes, I am walking the dog. And then, so it's entertainment. But there have been some great Bitcoin journalist moments within the podcasting space. Notably, like a couple of years ago, Peter McCormack grilled the CEO of Grayscale, Michael Sonnenschein, I think his name was, and basically said, what I think what you're doing is wrong, and I think you knew that what you were doing was wrong all along. And he really did give a sort of straight back to him. But I think largely speaking, the podcast space in Bitcoin is more of a circle jerk. It's more of a the classic thing is you'll see someone go on a podcast and they'll talk about, say, Trezor, and then the next week, the advert break will be, and I'd like to introduce you to the Trezor. Yeah. And you're like, come on, guys, that was clearly a softball podcast because they knew that there was money on the line. Yeah. So I think that we just need to be, I like the way you frame that question, actually. What is a podcast? What is a journalist? What is an educator? Because I think there have to be three clear columns. And yeah, the final thing, educator, well, you're put on the earth to teach. And initially I was a teacher, which is quite interesting because I think a lot of journalists and teachers, there's a lot to be shared as well, because often when you're talking about something as a journalist, you are teaching. That is part of it. You have to sometimes break down complex issues or complex topics and make it digestible to a broader audience. And that's ultimately what a teacher does too. But within the Bitcoin space, teachers, I mean, you could argue it's a podcaster too, right? Because a lot of podcasting is also breaking down like macro or, op return drama and making it easily digestible to the guy who's walking his dog or whatever it may be. Yep. So yeah, there's a lot of synergies between them all, but I think there are ultimately a couple of pillars that separate them. And I think that as a Bitcoin space generally, we need to do a lot better in terms of realizing, okay, who is being paid by who is not a captured voice, but an influenced voice, and what are those biases therein? Because if we can get better at that, then we can get better at creating a better Bitcoin future. And that's sort of one of the things that I'm really passionate about at the moment is making sure we've got better Bitcoin journalism, make sure we do have better Bitcoin educators, something I know that you're very passionate about with Trezor Academy and the work you do in Africa. And yeah, building on that so that we can have this better Bitcoin future. Yeah. I've rambled there. Did it make sense?
Beautiful. Or? Yeah, of course. So like what I get from that is that the journalist should be held to the highest standard, basically.
Yes.
Because that's like someone who we look up to as the source of like some objective truth. They should be aware of their biases maybe. And yeah, I always liked like these old school media guidelines, or how do you say it, like for like verifying the sources and not disclosing the sources and stuff like that. You can see like that a lot of the mainstream media has sort of abandoned that at this point. Right now in Czech Republic, we have quite a big scandal about like 1 billion Czech crowns in Bitcoin donated to the state by a darknet market operator. That happened like a couple of months ago. Yeah. And you can see the journalists basically doxing everyone, publishing like private photos, addresses, and really putting people in danger. Whoa. And it's really crazy to see that.
Wow. And
there's definitely some crime involved, some bribes and stuff, but it's just horrible, because if you're involved in that, there's like diagrams with all the personal information on everybody that's involved. Is horrible.
So would the journalists there be like, no, what we're doing is like WikiLeaks, we're just distributing information, and it's,
that's probably their excuse. Yeah.
But it sounds, but also, or does it maybe highlight an ignorance on behalf of the journalists for not realizing that like in disclosing that information, you are putting people at risk, at danger,
Yeah. It's weird to watch, but I believe, as you say, especially Bitcoin journalists should have high standards.
Yeah, for sure. But we should also not be exempt from scrutiny. Like people call me out all the time, and it's really hard to not fight that reaction to be like, shut up, online troll, and you've got to take a beat to be like, actually, someone called me out on my recent video about Peru, like a really poor village in Peru that uses Bitcoin. And he basically said, your tone suggests that you don't like wealthy people. Like the way in which you're sort of beating up the wealthy is not okay. And I was like, oh, I wanted to be like, I'm fine with wealth. Like I don't care if you get rich or whatever. Like Bitcoin is a space where a lot of people are going to get very wealthy. Like I'm okay with that. And then I took a step back and was like, actually, I rewatched the clip that he was referring to, and my wording was way too heavy on the side of sort of punishing the wealthy. And I was like, no, you're right. I should have said like the elites in this situation, or the corrupt elites, to point to the fact that I was actually getting annoyed about the fact that in Peru, a lot of the wealthy elites or the corrupt elites don't care for the situation around them, because it's a place where you can just build up walls and a pool and keep your house safe. It's a bit like South Africa in a way. And you don't necessarily have to worry about the fact that there are people starving, you know, down your streets. I mean, we do that in the West as well, but in Peru, it's just a lot more flagrant. And so,
All right, so you've been around quite a lot. You've been to many crazy places, including, for example, Cuba. There's an interesting story that I want to ask about that.
Okay.
That I heard. But let's just take it like from the top. So it's 2025. A lot of people still would say Bitcoin is useless. You've been around the world in the poor Bitcoin communities, in the rich Bitcoin communities, in Africa, Latin America, Asia as well. So what would you tell to those skeptics in terms of how Bitcoin is actually used around the world?
Interesting. Bitcoin is useless in 2025. Isn't it crazy that people still think that? But it just shows how early we still are. But yeah, no, I've used Bitcoin in Michael Saylor's villa to buy a drink, and I've used Bitcoin in shanty towns in Africa and Latin America and, you know, Cuba, places that don't have roofs, people don't have shoes, you know, abject poverty. And that is one observation you can make for that, is that Bitcoin is for anyone. You can be this multi-billionaire that wants to be the richest man on the planet, and you can also be someone just trying to get by in a censorship-ridden, authoritarian, last bastion of communism island in the Caribbean, which is, you know, Cuba. And but I wouldn't necessarily say anything to that person that's saying Bitcoin is useless. I would rather invite them to just download a wallet. I'll send them some Bitcoin, and they can see for themselves if it's useless. Recently, I was at the Energy Summit in Madeira. In Lisbon, but it was organized by the people at Free Madeira. Like, shout out to Andre Loja. And he put together this summit, and it was with a load of energy leaders from across Portugal and some of Iberia, so a bit of Spain. And we were sat at the table. I just sat with random people because there was loads of Bitcoiners there. There were loads of energy people there. And I was like, I want to see what the energy people are saying. And I sat at the table with a solar power executive and a old sort of petrol company in Portugal. They're both quite wealthy companies, successful established companies. And they were kind of like, I don't know what we're doing here. We're here for the free food. And I was like, that's cool. I'm into Bitcoin. What do you know about Bitcoin? They were like, to be honest, like, what's the point of it? Like, does it, you know, what does it do? And I was like, oh, great. Like, first thing is, do you have any? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, can I send you some right now? And I sent him some with my ring, because that always finds like this connects to a phone via NFC and does a lightning pull request from my wallet and sends to theirs. And so when he saw that, he was like, what? Like, because you can't do that with credit cards. Well, you could if you chopped up the pin, put it in the ring, but no one's going to do that. But that was like the first like light bulb moment of like, whoa, you can do something with Bitcoin that you can't necessarily do regularly with fiat money. And then the person opposite me, she then sent him some Bitcoin, and we're both foreigners. And to send someone to a foreigner, like typically you need some KYC, you need to go through like TransferWise or Revolut or whatever it is, some money transfer mechanism. That's going to take a while. And we both just sent him money instantly over the Lightning Network, and he could then go and buy something with that if he so wished, or he could hodl it. And so you could just see that he was just like, oh, okay, so Bitcoin isn't completely useless because I've just been shown how quickly it is to send it as money. And I think ultimately it does boil down to the fact that yes, Bitcoin goes up over time, but if you're trying to tell someone that Bitcoin is not useless immediately, then you can just send it to them because that proves its use and it is peer-to-peer cash, you know, as the white paper intended. So that's what I tried to do. And then, yeah, with regards to the follow-up to that, I would then send them my videos from around the world, which I hope do a much better job of explaining just how important Bitcoin is, because it's not some privileged white guy sitting in a lovely podcast studio explaining how useful Bitcoin is to the less well-off around the world, but it's real stories from the likes of Cuba. You know, I'm banned from Cuba. If I go to Cuba, I will get in a car accident or I will.
That's what you've been told, right?
Yeah, or I will end up with a dodgy dose of food poisoning if I go back to Cuba. This is from exiled Cuban journalists who were like, "Why did you do this work in Cuba? Like, why did you talk about?"
Yeah.
And
let's cover that maybe like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure.
But as you say, a lot of people just need some hands-on experience because they have this idea it's like a company stock or something similar to that, and there's no idea it's like actual peer-to-peer electronic cash that you can use like that, and you just send money around the world. So that's beautiful. Yeah. So that's a good recommendation for people that didn't have any experience with Bitcoin, have some preconceptions, to just try it out. And usually, you need some Bitcoiner that's actually willing to do the work with them.
Yeah, it can be an expensive experiment after a while. Yeah,
so I also like have this idea of that orange pilling doesn't actually work. Like showing Bitcoin down somebody's throat, it doesn't really work. I don't think anybody can be actually orange pilled. It's like this typical, you lead the horse to the water and they have to take the drink. And I believe like, and you must have seen that many times over the years, that it seems like people are getting it if you are sitting down with them, but then when you follow up, there is zero follow-up. So and it's really hard to pinpoint like who's the type that actually like orange pills themselves. Because it doesn't work if it's like just one-sided. I've tried with my family, with some of my friends, it just doesn't get across. Yeah. So what's your experience? Like what actually works for people?
Firstly, I agree. I think that it's true that it is. I mean, I've had so many painful, that wedding again, I don't know why this wedding's in my mind, but a guy came up to me who I'd seen at weddings at the same, because it was a similar friendship group. So he was at that wedding last year and the year before. And he was like, "Oh, Joe, it's the Bitcoin guy." And I was like, "Oh God, it's me, yes." And he's like, "Mate, if I'd bought Bitcoin when you told me to, I would have been doing so well right now." And I was like, "Why are you telling me this? Why don't you just do what I said?" And he's like, "Next time I see you, I'm going to do it. Next time I see you, I'm going to do it." And I'm like, "Okay, you promise?" And he's like, "Yeah." And it's like a drunken, like fun interaction, but he knows that he's been missing out for the past 2 years and it's funny. But how do you choose the right ones? I can speak to the people that I have been able to sit down and have this conversation with, and then 3 months later, they reach out to me with a question about running a node. And I'm just like, zing. They are like fully in. I mean, my full-time editor was at Cointelegraph when we were working together. He was the guy that edited the Cuba documentary, and he speaks Spanish. He's Spanish originally, and a lot of my content is Spanish, and we got on quite well, but he was a total like crypto newbie. You know, he had like some Sol and some, I don't know, some shitcoin stuff. And then I was like, I recognize your editing talent. Like, would you be interested in working for me, like, you know, after Cointelegraph? And we got around to that conversation, and I said, listen, I want to try pay everyone in Bitcoin that works with me or for me. And he was like, I don't know how to do that. And so I talked him through it. And then, you know, 6 months later, he's now running, like I run a node through, oh crap, what's it like? Umbrel? Is it? Yeah, an Umbrel node. And he's done it through a Raspberry Pi all by himself. He's done the seed. He's even done the sharding stuff. Like he's gone way above the technical level that I have in Bitcoin. And I was the one to like introduce him to it like 18 months ago now. So sometimes you hit absolute winners and then they end up advising you and mentoring you about Bitcoin stuff because they go even further down a different rabbit hole to you. So I don't know if there is a winning strategy per se. And I feel like this is really bad, but it's just a scattergun approach. Like, you know, of all those orange pills that you give out, someone at some point will fully swallow it, and their life will change, and you'll see them grow as a person as well. And that, like, I'm now in my 30s, and I was talking to Mark, you know, your driver come assistant here at Trezor in the car, and he's 20 years old. And I was like thinking, man, like, I remember when I was 20 years old and I was kind of like looking for mentor figures and things. And now I'm in that position to be able to sort of share some knowledge. And like, I think that one of the things I can share with people is, well, Bitcoin could change your life. It could change your life for the good. So I'm always quite keen to impart that knowledge. But winning strategies, I don't know, man. I don't know. What's yours? What's your go-to?
I haven't discovered that formula. Really, just it seems random. Like what I've seen is my impression is it's much easier in the global south in Africa, and also there's big differences in between countries. I had this impression there needs to be like a specific mix of the country being like desperate enough in terms of how their money works, but not really downtrodden, not really like absolutely poor. So South Africa is a great example. It just like the public sector, the state doesn't really work that well, but you have like quite a good like level of education and general infrastructure, and there's some middle class. There's like working companies like the Pick and Pay.
Touch points.
Good touch points. So similar, I guess, in Kenya. So like these countries.
High literacy as well.
Yeah, high literacy,
in Kenya.
Definitely.
But it is often where the Gini coefficient is the highest, which is also quite worrying. Well, that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because, that means there is a rich or wealthy class and there is a sort of lower class, and that lower class is massive, and they're looking for the payments thing. They're looking to save their first money, whereas the rich are looking to protect their wealth, right? And protect it ultimately from the state. So in those countries, right, the enemy is kind of the state, right? Because the state is the thing that gets involved and messes stuff up like time and time again.
Also, maybe on that point, what you also have like in some African countries is people with foreign education that came back and just want to uplift the community. Like Herman from Bitcoin and Kasi, or Oken in Namibia, both have foreign education and they really care for their country and for their community, even though like they could probably live in Europe and do well for themselves. But so that helps a lot. And I mean, those countries aren't at war or stuff. So if that happens, like there's probably not much Bitcoin education going on in Sudan or countries like that.
Yeah, I think that the likes of Sudan and Burundi and these places, it's going to be really challenging. But now you're saying it, and I think about those sort of themes. Curacao is well up there in terms of educated. There is some money. The government's there, but not really. Pretty sort of free and sort of alternative. Like to have different thoughts and to think freely is not necessarily a weird thing. You're not necessarily all falling in line. And but there has to be a certain level of education there. I mean, this is why I thought in Cuba it was going to take off so much, because the literacy rates in Cuba are like 110%, right? Because everyone and their dog has a PhD, has like a doctorate, because state education to that level is free, right? Like the great part about about communism, you can't eat, but you can study.
To maybe go back to the question of what works in terms of orange pilling. I myself have never been like a really active orange piller, like going around like the shops and explaining Bitcoin. I've never been too much into that. What I prefer to do is just put out the content, put the content out there, like books, podcasts, talks and stuff, and it will find its like whoever is looking for that education will find it, and then like from that I see I have like strong followers for whom like Bitcoin has really, and like the Bitcoin content I do has really changed their lives, but I have never seen them, or maybe I just meet them at the conference.
So you have orange pill people then?
I have orange pill people, but basically indirectly, just from them consuming my content.
That means you've orange pilled them.
Yeah, I guess so. It does. So that's maybe also important for the listeners. It's great to do like to try to orange pill people, if you stick to that term, but you have to find like what works for you, because some people are really natural with going around the shops and explaining Bitcoin. For me, it would be uncomfortable. For me, like sitting in a studio is much more comfortable. You just need to find whatever like is if you want to educate people about Bitcoin, to just find the correct formula for you.
I mean, I do that going around the shops. I think that's what you're referring to, and it is funny.
You're natural in that.
It's silly, it's funny, but also I do it because it puts me outside of my comfort zone. No one. I mean, there are some crazy people on the planet who are happy to strike up a conversation with anyone. Like Paco, for example. He could literally talk to anyone's grandmother, and by the end of the day, the grandmother would be like, "When is Paco coming home?" He's just one of those people that has that incredible charm about him, despite he's also an absolute terror. But like I do this because originally I thought I wanted to prove that we were early, and then I realized that I got a lot out of it from a personal growth perspective. So I still do that. I'll stand in the street and I'll be wearing something silly and I'll invite people to share their opinion about Bitcoin just because I want to do a litmus test or almost take the temperature of what Bitcoin is like in a place.
Are you going to do it in Prague?
I'm thinking about it. If energy levels are good on Monday, I will do it. Yeah. But I broke my foot recently and I'm emceeing on Saturday and I've got an Ironman in October. So I'm like trying to balance a lot of things at the moment. And the main thing is recovery. So like if I'm feeling good on Monday morning, then I think, keen. Yeah.
Will be cool to watch. Yeah. So let's talk Cuba. That's probably one of the craziest stories I've heard, like about like Bitcoiners just recording some stuff and then getting like real life threats basically based on that. So I will link to that video. It's really well done. I really enjoyed like watching the documentary. It was one of the most popular on Cointelegraph, I believe.
For that year, there are bigger ones now because they've had interviews with Saylor.
Yeah. So just for the listeners to understand, it's like 2 years ago, you visited Cuba with Paco de la India, and you basically met with local Bitcoiners and explained how Bitcoin works in Cuba. So what happened after?
Well, that's the fascinating thing. Do you know this? Are you asking this because you know the answer already?
A little bit, but I don't think I heard it directly from you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the interesting thing is that, you know, Bitcoin is being used in this communist state or pseudo-communist. You know, there's no real communism. There never was a real communism because of the way that communism doesn't work, right? But you know, you can't be rich in Cuba. You can't make money in Cuba. The second you start making money in Cuba, the state is going to come and they're going to rattle you. And that's the first thing to point out, is that the place that they were having the Bitcoin meetups, as I understand it, the state has come and they've rattled the guys that are running this place.
Was it because of your video?
I want to sleep at night, so I say, no, it wasn't because of my video. But I do wonder whether the impact of that video has circulated in some circles, because I know that the Cuban Bitcoin community were using that video to help sort of raise awareness of Bitcoin in Cuba and to show just how useful it is, because there's no exchanges in Cuba. It's very hard to buy Bitcoin in Cuba, and yet the Cubans are still able to buy Bitcoin through Telegram or Signal trading groups, through LNPTP bot, which is a sort of lightning bot built into Telegram, and through sort of encrypted messengers, basically. And because the Cubans are so highly literate and highly educated, they grasp Bitcoin and then they just go so deep so quickly, and they're building nodes out of scrap metal, and they're so resourceful, so creative. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, how Czech Republic, everyone's a craftsman or they know how to build something because your heritage is such that, you know, you had 40 years of, you couldn't get things from the outside. So everyone just learned how to have a skill. It's kind of similar in Cuba, that everyone just learns how to build something and is just incredibly resourceful like that. And so the main characters in this are Forte and Katria, who, I don't know if I should say this or not, because I don't know what I can and can't say. So in the interest of protecting their interests, let's just say that they're okay. They're safe, they're sound, and I'll tell you offline what's going on. Yeah. But the movement is still going to some extent, but there were pressures put on the group from the state. They knew this would happen. And I mean, Forte spoke openly about how when he did some tweets about the leadership in Cuba, like his rations were removed. And this is like a classic tactic from the state to show, hey, we're watching you. Like, we were followed when we went to a marketplace in Cuba, and we were pretty spooked at the time and pretty scared because, you know, no one wants to be followed. I pretended to be just a content creator on holiday in Cuba, because you can go on holiday to Cuba and you can have a great time. You can go to the 5-star resorts, you can eat, you know, all you can eat buffets and breakfast, and you'd never know that 2 blocks down people are starving. And yet that is the real reality. So I kind of wanted to highlight that with the content. But so what's happened after it? Well, the Bitcoin movement is still going there, but some of the main characters are less present, let's say. And you can still, you know, use Bitcoin at some places. I won't be able to go back there to document it. I'd love it if someone else could. But I think that because I've been there, it might be harder to document that kind of thing. Bitcoin is unstoppable technology. Bitcoin is, to an extent, inevitable. But once states such as Cuba sort of recognize how powerful Bitcoin is as a tool, they'll either try to stop it and fight it, or they'll try to harness it. And the good thing about them trying to harness it, right, is that it makes the whole world a bit better. But it does inadvertently mean that they could also make the state even more powerful, and therefore, you know, more more crippling, which is the case in Cuba. So I'd love to sort of share more publicly about what's going on with Catalina Forte, but it's just like, it's a delicate situation.
Yeah,
and
understood.
Yeah, I'm not one of the journalists like in Czech Republic.
And you said you were basically told never to come back because you will be in danger.
Yeah, so I was interviewed by 2 exiled Cuban journalists because, you know, the state runs the media in Cuba. It's kind of like China, but a bit stiffer and a bit stronger. And these 2, one was based in Madrid, who reached out to me and said, hey man, like I heard about this video you made, like we're doing an interview together. And I was like, sure. And then in the interview, he was like, why did you do that? Why did you do this? And I was like, well, I'm just a content creator while I'm there. I'm not a journalist. I'm not, doing journalism, because a journalist I don't think is allowed to Cuba. You'd have to get special authorization and you'd have to have it all approved. Yeah. And he said, if you go back to Cuba, you will have a car accident. You will have some sort of stomach bug or whatever it is. And I was like, oh. Whoops, looks like I'm not going back to Cuba. And then another journalist reached out to me for written comment, because there's a lot of people that write and make content about Cuba as exiles because they want to get the truth and the word out. And, we as Westerners forget, because you can go on a really nice holiday in Cuba, and you can, and you should. But it's just that there's this weird dichotomy that is just there. As long as you open your eyes and look a little bit around the corner, you'll notice it.
Did you ever have any similar experience in any other country?
Similar to that, I mean, I was in China a couple of times, and I went across the border from Hong Kong to China the first time last year, and I wanted to see just how illegal Bitcoin is in China. So the first thing I did was I open up my Internet Explorer and I go to like Chrome or Brave, whatever it was, and I type in BBC and it's censored. Facebook is censored. Oh no. And then, the things that they talk about in the West that are censored. And then I go onto the mempool, and you can access the mempool from China. I was like, that's interesting. And then I went and did a Bitcoin on-chain transaction from Blue Wallet to a friend's address at home. And then I did a Lightning transaction. And I just wanted to prove that, hey, I'm in Shenzhen right now and you can use Bitcoin. You shouldn't, because it's against the law, obviously, I think in particular for Chinese citizens to do so. But you can, and Bitcoin is censorship resistant technology. Nice. And then when I went back to China this year, because I went with Sophie I went on the Great Wall of China. We're going as tourists, right? But I met with some of the Bitcoiners while I was there, and I wanted to get a sense of what the Chinese Bitcoin scene is like, because Bitcoin is massive in China. It has been historically, and you got Bitmain, CZ or CZ was originally building, not Binance, but building, I think it was OKX before that, whichever the Chinese exchanges was. Samsung was there with BTC China. China is so important to the history of Bitcoin. Not quite the same as Trezor or Prague, but it's still like up there. And I was just curious to meet some of these guys who'd been in this space for 15 years. And so I did, and I just wanted to ask them, like, how legal is it, And I realized that our Western perspective of China is very influenced by the media, naturally. But the reality is that, within all these rules, there's always these gray areas and there's always ways of getting around it. The case in point being COVID. I was like, but on the BBC, it was reported that you couldn't access certain places because you had to have the right QR code. And they were like, well, yeah, but there was free QR codes going on marketplaces. And I was like, And the way they explained it, and now I was talking to Westerners that have been in China for decades now, and they really love China. And I understand why they love it now, having been and traveled around China, was that, yes, there are censorship, and yes, there is issues, and yes, it's authoritarian. But as long as you know what the rules are, so as long as you don't talk about like the 3 blocked things in China, i.e., Uyghurs and Tibet and Tiananmen Square and Winnie the Pooh, like these things that everyone knows about, don't talk about that in China, then your life is really free. And so they were actually asking me the same questions about the West. They were like, how bad is it in London now? Is it true you can get arrested for a tweet? And I was like, it kind of is, man. And they were like, wow. And I was there like, what the hell is going on? I'm speaking to a Westerner in China, and they're asking me about my freedoms in the West. Like, how the world is so different depending on the way in which you look at it, the way in which you consume media. And it was a bit mind-blowing in a sense. But I'm also kind of worried because of this experience, if I'm now on some list for China, and if they'll look at me and be like, well, look what he said about Cuba, look what he does with Bitcoin. He's either not allowed in, or he's going to be in trouble if he comes back into China, which would be a real shame, because I really want to visit and travel more in that country. Because the whole thing, and this is so relevant to what's going on in Iran and Israel right now, like, there are governments and they are full of dickheads. and then there's the people. And you can always rely on the kindness, the warmth of strangers in all of these countries. You know what I mean? Like we've walked around like the middle of like African slums, and the places that your parents were like, "Oh, don't go there. You'll be attacked or mugged." And you're treated with respect, with warmth, with kindness. And so it's not the people. It's never the bloody people. It's always these. It's always those structures at the top.
Very true, very true. Yeah. Just a side note, there's a great book on Bitcoin in China by Roger Huang, Would Mao Hold Bitcoin? I will put up a link to that. I don't think Roger is allowed into China anymore.
No,
he's not going there, definitely.
No. Just a quick note on him. So I'm putting together a documentary right now about how far Hong Kong, like how legal Bitcoin can be in Hong Kong while China's shadow sort of grows in the region. And it talks about Jimmy Lai and, I forget the name of the big company that Jimmy Lai founded.
Apple Daily?
Yeah, Apple Daily, exactly. Apple Daily News. And Roger, I interviewed him for it as well and asked him about his book. And I mean, he wrote a book that says, "Would Mao hold Bitcoin?" with a picture of Mao on the front. And that's another thing you can't do. You can't use the leaders' faces. It's a bit like Islam in a way. You can't use faces on things because you will be censored or put on a list. And but a great book if you want some insights into what's actually going on in China. Absolutely.
In terms of Bitcoin adoption. You've been around quite a lot. Can you characterize like what's the main difference between Bitcoin perception and adoption in between like the West and the global South?
Interesting.
Is there anything like notable?
First thing that pops out at me is just number go up, like the get rich side of things. I think that in the West, we are seduced by the number go up because we're so aware of inflation and, just the general rising cost of living. And so we're sort of looking for a place to store our wealth. And ultimately, it's true that the one true use case for Bitcoin that serves everyone, there are several true use cases, but the one that serves everyone all the time is protection from central bank idiocy, which is inflation, right? So that's the thing that serves everyone. And in the West, because there is just more money and incomes are higher, that pain point is just boom, done, tick. Whereas in the global South, there are more light bulb moments about the ability to save money on fees, save money on transfers, save money on remittances, and to be able to transact, with censorship resistance, which is of course much more important in the likes of, North Korea or, Sudan or war zones, or we saw it with Ukraine as well, that there was a huge amount of Bitcoin being zapped around effectively at the start of the Russian invasion, like 3 years ago now. So I think, I think that's the main divider, I would say, like just store of value in the West. And I worry as well that because that is such a strong narrative, we could fall into the trap of just creating Bitcoin a hedged or a fenced off Bitcoin, in that there'll be certain people that will actually be able to use Bitcoin for its other true use cases, like sending money around the world and, being decentralized. And there's some people that will just have their Bitcoin in a pension fund or an ETF or whatever else it is. And they might sort of inadvertently get the benefits of it, but they won't get the real benefits of it, and they won't be like a real Bitcoin citizen or similar. You know what I mean? They'll be like almost different classes.
Just a derivative.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that I see that as one of the things that I need to do more of and need to raise my voice about, is that Bitcoin is money, and Bitcoin will only be money as long as we keep using it as money. So when you get the chance to spend Bitcoin, when you get the chance to pay someone in Bitcoin, when you get the chance to earn Bitcoin, do it. Like, don't empower the dollar anymore. Don't empower the Czech crown anymore. Don't empower the pound anymore. Empower Bitcoin, because that is the future you want to build.
Yeah. I'm always amazed with the MOE, medium of exchange focus of African Bitcoiners, especially when we come to these African Bitcoin conferences, and it's just blowing up so fast. In terms of Machankura, how it spreads across the continent, and stuff like Tendo. In Kenya, where you can pay into the M-Pesa with Lightning. That's amazing, because a lot of these using Bitcoin as medium of exchange use cases seem to be going ahead much more in Africa, progressing much more in Africa, or if that's your perception.
No, I agree. And the other thing is that they don't make silly videos about it like I do the whole time. You know what I mean?
Usually people don't know about it at all.
Yeah. But when they do, they just use it, and they're like, yeah, it's one of the many tools in my financial toolkit.
I mean, people in the West, they're not aware. Like they're always like totally blown away when I explain like how much Ankura works or how Tando works and how much ahead it is in terms of actually using Bitcoin on the ground.
I think that is also one of the challenges of trying to explain what Africa is like to someone from the West. You know what I mean? Like you've been to Africa quite a few times, and Africa, even just like that spans from like Mauritius to Tunisia to South Africa to, you know, Burkina Faso, and all of those places are like complete polar opposites with like different races, religions, ethnicities, different monies, different histories, everything. And yet there's also certain things that comprise this African continent. And one of the things that in the Bitcoin world is that, Bitcoin as money takes off a lot quicker. But I think that, what I was trying to say with it was that when you explain it to someone in say it's Senegal, they'll just use it and they won't be like, oh, I need to take a video of this and send it to my friends. Whereas us in the West, we're like, oh, this is cool. I need to film this and like, get some likes on Twitter. They're just like, no, it's a need. Like we're almost doing it as a flex, as like a, check this out. This is why Bitcoin is better. And they're just like, Bitcoin is better, full stop. So what? Like, I'm using it as money because I can and I need to. And the final point on John, the use case thing is that we're banked. We're very, very banked. We're overbanked. In Africa, it's either underbanked or unbanked. And so you see that need quite quickly. When someone goes from cash to custodial Lightning, it's this gigantic leap that just completely circumvents the Visa MasterCard system. And it's just, and people are like, oh, but it's custodial Lightning. And I'm like, bro, like you can't like crunch the financial data. You can't like use that to like target ads at them. They've just leapfrogged what we've gone through for the past 20 years, which is that some insurer somewhere has a profile of everything I've spent money on for the past 20 years and is now looking to like, sell me whatever it is they think I need. And that's just one of the points, like privacy and everything else that comes with it.
Another amazing use case in Africa is using the stranded energy for Bitcoin mining. Like your most popular video currently is
I like you say currently, thanks.
Off-grid Bitcoin mining in Africa with gridless. I believe it was recorded in Kenya. You got more than 100K views. Which is pretty cool. Like,
without Michael Saylor.
Without Michael Saylor, about like Bitcoin mining in Africa. So, like, did you know when you were like recording it? Because like the quality of that video and like the content, it wasn't that surprising to me. But why was it so popular? I'm just curious about that because.
Let's dig more into that. So were you saying that it's similar to my other videos? So why did that one blow up?
I knew like, I basically knew like what to expect from the video. So that much surprising. But I guess a lot of like 99% of people, even Bitcoiners, just are not aware of what's going on in terms of Bitcoin mining gas.
So interesting.
Or why was it so successful,
No, I want to explain it, but I think you're touching on something that I'm also trying to work out myself. And it's that, so you knew about gridless before the video. You were very well versed in gridless. But then you also know my videos. But did that video strike you as being a lot better production value than my other videos? Or was it just similar to Joe?
It was similar to me.
I thought the same thing. So I did that video because I'm now looking back with the benefit of hindsight, which is of course 2020. And I'm like, oh my God, I should have capitalized on this video more. Like, because I also need to make money, right? And I should have put like more promo codes in it or got like got a sponsor that would have got, say Trezor had sponsored that video and I did a 30-second segment in the middle saying, and by the way, these miners secure their Bitcoin with a hardware wallet, then I could have used that to make better videos in the future because 100,000 eyeballs, say 0.1% convert. Well, I've just made myself an extra $1,000 off that video of the, we're assuming, I get tenner for the hardware wallet. I think that's the right maths, but someone in the comments is going to correct me, I'm sure.
Yeah, good thinking. Yeah, maybe next time. But I guess
that's why I'm a journalist.
I guess, but for that you need to understand like what kind of video will go viral, and that one did.
Exactly, and that's why. So I've had 5 videos over 30,000 views, one video over 50,000, well, 2 videos over 50,000 views, and one video over 100,000 views so far over an 18-month like proper YouTube journey of this Bitcoin niche, weird content, whatever you want to call it, like Bitcoin travel investigation journalism, I guess. And that one felt to me, I think you feel similar, that it was similar. It was just like the other ones, And so why would that one blow up versus the other ones? And I think that I've now sort of studied it a bit more, and I did hit the sort of YouTube tick boxes of how to make a good 12-minute or 10 to 12-minute YouTube video. For example, like the intro hook delivers on the thumbnail. The thumbnail itself, I think, is quite clickable. The premise of the story, I deliver on it within the first minute. These are all like classic, like how to make a good 10-minute YouTube video. At the 2.5 to 3 minute mark, I do a re-engagement where I deliver more on the story. And in the gridless one, it was the fact that we didn't realize there was another mining farm on that farm.
Yeah.
And then it's like watchable enough, like the quality, the audio, everything else sort of all is okay. But basically the first 3 minutes of that deliver and then some on what the thumbnail and title promised. And that's why enough people watch till the end. So I think that's what's gone on there. And on top of that, let's be honest, what Gridless is doing is absolutely incredible. You know, it's marvelous. I don't want to put it down to the fact that this is a really remote region of Kenya and I'm interviewing, you know, villagers and CEOs and miners and Bitcoin advocates, because if I need to do that to hit 100K views each time, then I'm going to go mad and grey in the process. But like, because I appreciate that it was a good bit of content, but I would actually say that the Off-Grid Steve video of mine is better. And so, I mean, I really hope your audience is into analyzing YouTube stuff, but this is what my day job looks like now. I'm trying to work out why is that one doing better, because ultimately I want to help orange pill more people, and my content does orange pill more people as yours does. So I'm like, okay, if I hit 100K views, it means I can do it. It means there's product market fit for this kind of niche. So I want to repeat it and want to, you know, keep delivering more and more orange pills in the hope that someone swallows them. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking at this content. I'm like, why? Why? So if anyone knows why it was so good, not in terms of a piece of content, but why it was so good for YouTube. You know, why did that do so well in the algo? And
yeah, because then it needs to be recommended so that more people click it. Yeah.
Cuba got less. Cuba was 60. Cuba's at like 50 or 60,000 views.
So oh wow! So it was
from an account that has 300,000 subscribers. So like I have 10,000 or 15,000 subscribers. Cointelegraph has 200,000 subscribers, and that video did worse than the Kenya Bitcoin mines thing.
Really amazing. Yeah.
Make it make sense.
No, like the YouTube algorithm never made sense to me, but I'm very bad at playing that. I just do what I like, and then whoever watches it.
But that's authenticity.
Yeah.
And that also works really well. You know, there are certain podcasters in the Bitcoin space that lean into the clickbait thumbnail stuff. And let's be honest, it's a bit like, come on, like you see that and you go, really? And those people like yourself who just do a regular format, like that's how you build an audience, right? And that's how you build a core audience that will follow you and listen to you each time. Yeah. Which is arguably better.
So just final topic on the content creation. I was just wondering how much time it actually takes to do a video like that, because like the post-production, like it looks like a nightmare.
I don't want to say.
I just sit down, record that. There is no like post-production basically.
At all?
Basically, we don't do any cuts.
I need to be a podcast on that.
It's just 2 hours of like raw talk. And that's it, basically.
Why am I not a podcaster? I did try podcasting for a bit and I loved it. Like I enjoyed chatting about Bitcoin with Bitcoiners. Like you're a friend, you're a Bitcoiner. What's not to like, right? Yeah. But then, I don't know, maybe I should go back into it. Also, the English voice or English accent exports quite well.
Yes, it does. Very pleasant to listen to. So how long did that take, that one video?
The Kenya, in terms of like hours, I'd say it was probably close to like everything together. It's probably like 250 hours. It was a lot of work. And that's not just me, you know, I'm scripting and going through and reviewing and scripting and reviewing. That one I also, I hired 2 people to review it before, which I've started to do more and more actually, to get a second pair of eyes to check on stuff and just to make sure that the beats that I think are doing well with, like, I'll watch them watching it. I know that sounds really weird, but I just want it to be like the best viewing experience. But then the piece about Peru, I can't believe this took me 18 months, but it took me 18 months to bring together. Oh. Guess how many views it got?
Not that many.
1,800, yeah.
1,800.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's horrible.
but like this is it, right? And I thought, I knew that video wouldn't perform very well, but I put everything into it, and I want to, I'm a proud person and I care about my work, and But it hurts. Yeah, it's painful, but that is the nature of the internet. And there's one I'm working on right now called the Bitcoin Beggar, where I begged on Bitcoin for 24 hours. And this one is going to be way more than the Africa off-grid Bitcoin mines one. Way more expensive too, in terms of editing, in terms of animation. And I think it will fly. I hope it will fly, but you never know. And so when you take like the Africa off-grid Bitcoin mines one, I wanted to gamble on it because I wanted to do it for gridless, because I really care about that project. I really like Eric, and I wanted like them to have something as well. And you could say that's a bias, and that is fair. It definitely is a bias. I generally want them to do well as a company, which is probably not what a journalist should do. But there is also no strong argument as to why gridless is a bad thing for the world. You know what I mean? Like there's literally no argument against it. So the gridless thing, that was the other thing. Eric spoke to me in, was it Portugal? And said, that is the best explainer of what we do compared to anyone else that's done like content about us. Yeah. And I was like, shit, that's awesome. Like that's so. And
it wasn't long. That's great.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
You can watch it while taking a shit.
Yeah, and not just like what gridless does, but what Bitcoin mining does.
Oh yeah.
What it can do for the community, for the environment and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that was another YouTube thing. At the end of the video, I tried to link it back to an open-ended question and then get them to watch the next video. And some people have done that as well. So there are also certain YouTube tick boxes that you can hit when it comes to that short form content. For podcasting, I don't know, but for short form content, it's yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, I will definitely link to it, and you will get 10 more views.
Yes, thank you, Joseph.
So we have like maybe 20 minutes to go. I want to use that time fully. Maybe let's do. As a public Bitcoiner, and you are quite well known at this point. Like
within maybe Europe in a tiny scale.
Within our bubble, but
there you go. Yeah,
a year from now you can be much more famous. You never know.
Or cancelled.
Couple more videos like that. How do you feel about that? Like about the possibility of becoming like a publicly known Bitcoiner.
Can I just say you're very good at this? I've done quite a few podcasts and you're very good at this. You're very good at the summarizing what's just been said and putting it back in a concise fashion, and you're good at asking questions, because that is a great question. It's a nice ego stroking question, and visualize yourself in a year. It's exciting and it's terrifying, the idea that I would grow more, do more, but also, that sounds so wanky. It's kind of like what I need to do. Like I want to do that. I need to do it because I feel like I can do it and I should do it. Like there is a space to do good Bitcoin journalism, and I want to fill it, and I'm getting a lot out of filling it. And I think that people are getting a lot out of filling it, watching it. So but then the doxing side of thing, the public side of thing, I mean, this is really embarrassing, but this year to BTC Prague, I've brought a little mask and some glasses and a hat because I want to make some content while I'm at the conference to show like what the conference is like, but I can't actually go around the hall. You're the same, right? Like you can't go around without someone stopping you and saying, hey, and do you have a chat? And
at a Czech Bitcoin conference, yes.
There you go. And so you know what I mean? Like sometimes you've got to get shit done and you're like working professionally, because this is also like, I want to make a nice bit of content about Prague because I like Matthias and Martin and I like what they're doing here, and I just want to do it. But in order to do that, I need to cover up my face. So how silly is that? But then because I tried to do it last year, and Sophie, my fiance, she was like grabbing me left, right and center and trying to like get me to move places. And I couldn't, because I want to say hello to everyone. I'm not... I value being polite and I hate rude people. So I always want to have time for people. I think that's like the one thing you can do. So in a year's time, what's that going to look like? You've seen Sailor at conferences. Sailor can't move. Like he has no security. Yeah. Even someone with like a bigger profile than me, like I don't know, Stefan Livera or Giacomo, like they can't move at conferences for people wanting to take selfies or say hi or whatever it is. So it's something you bear in mind, but also I guess that's really cool as well. Is it cool?
It is cool among Bitcoiners at a like Bitcoin setting, like at a conference or a meetup. what sometimes is a little bit uncomfortable to me is when I'm, for example, out with my family in the city and somebody recognizes me and I just don't want to have like that conversation at that point. And it's a little bit uncomfortable then. And I'm a nobody. Like the largest Bitcoin YouTuber in Czech Republic has 10 times more followers. Like over 100,000 subscribers now on YouTube. So
in Czech?
Like, in Czech.
That's wild. Population of Czech is like 10 million, 10 million?
10 million plus like Slovakians can understand Czech as well, and they follow Czech Bitcoin content as well. So there's like 15 million speakers, and he has 100,000 subscribers, and it's a Bitcoin-only channel. It's Kitsom, like that's the nickname, but Jakub Vejmola, you will meet him. You will meet him.
Okay.
You will meet him at the dinner tonight.
Whoa, so that's like huge.
Yeah,
he's huge. The ratio as well.
Yeah, the ratio.
That's bigger than like Roman in Germany, the block trainer.
Yeah, I think like our guy is, in terms of this ratio, he's larger than block trainer.
Yeah, because block trainer is like 200k subs, but Germany's population is like
it's much
8x that.
So I don't want to be like on that level. Honestly. It's nice to like have that recognition if people recognize like stuff that you care about. But at some point you maybe want to fade out a little. Have you thought about that? Like, especially if Bitcoin goes like 10x from here, it's gonna get uncomfortable, I would say. So like, the Opsec angle of what we do.
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
I'll have to go and live in Cuba then, won't I? No, I it's interesting. I did get spotted in a gym once, a gym in the northeast of England. And a guy came up to me and was like, "Are you Joe Nakamoto?" And I was like, "Who are you? What's going on?" And I was like, "Have I put the weights on wrong?" I was just like, "It's going to be anything but Bitcoin." And he was like, "I like your content. Can I take a selfie?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was just like, "What the hell is going on?" It was funny, but I was also like, I am now a face that people can recognize in a crowd if they follow my content, which is bizarre. And it's unsettling. And I had it in the plane this morning. I mean, I was flying from Portugal to here. So naturally there is a Portuguese Bitcoin community and they come to this conference. It's the biggest one. But, I was waiting in line for the toilet on the plane at 7 a.m. and this guy's just staring at me and I'm just like, uh-oh. And eventually he's like, "Are you Joe?" And it's like, "It depends who's asking." It's like, I had actually met him before. He's a really nice guy and we had a nice chat. But, traveling a lot, like, 10 minutes later, I'm like mouth open, like I'm trying to go to sleep in this plane. So you do worry a little bit about that. But I think the one difference we have versus other industries is that if it's Bitcoiners spotting you, then they get it. They get privacy, they get, or at least they should get it, and therefore we have that, I don't know how to describe it. Like, this isn't pop fame, where you're going to get people like grabbing you and like trying to like take, trying to kiss you and trying to do like, they just want to be like, "Hey, I've got your passion too." And that's kind of sweet in a way. But I do get that. I would hate to lose my anonymity entirely, not be able to go anywhere. I think that celebrity and fame is actually not a great idea. And maybe that's a good thing to consider because maybe I don't want to grow that fast. Maybe I don't want too many 100K. Or maybe I go faceless and just do voiceovers. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I could still do voiceover work with documentaries.
Could be interesting to ask like McCormack about that. Like, how often is he recognized on the street, especially in England? Because
he's been recognized on a date before.
On a date,
with a girl, who's like he liked, and then she was a no coiner. She was a no coiner.
Oh, okay.
So he was saying like, "I run a Bitcoin podcast," and she was like, "What?" And then he gets spotted during the dinner, and then suddenly she was like, "Are you famous?" So could work. It could help you get laid at some point. So there's that as well.
Yeah. I'm fully covered there.
Yeah, me too.
You travel a lot, so what do you do to maintain your health? Like, are you already at that age where you need to consider that, or not yet?
Yeah. No, I definitely am. I mean, I'm doing this Ironman, right? And health is wealth for me. So, like, I broke my foot 4 weeks ago, just playing with my nieces in a playground. Stupidest way to break your foot, but whatever. It was awful because I went from doing 15 hours of sport every week, between 10 and 15 realistically, to 0. And suddenly you just lose all these endorphins and like feel good vibes and just being active and healthy. And so I've always prioritized sport, health, activity. And what was the question? Sorry.
What do you do for your health? Like,
what do I do for it?
Like, so exercise?
Yes, lots of exercise.
Maybe like diet, light hygiene, stuff like that.
Yeah, I do a disgusting amount of exercise, and exercise for me is like my therapy in a way, and it's a way of thinking through things and processing stuff. I also find myself like often on like long cycle rides or long runs, I'll actually script stuff in my head, which is not healthy. I don't recommend that, but like it's just a way of getting my creative juices flowing. And I do lift a little bit, but I'm always going to be skinny, and I'm okay with that. Just come to terms with it. That's how it is. And then doing new things in sport is really important. Like I'm a surfer as well. Like that's the sport I'm probably most passionate about. But I also, like, in the summer I'll play lots of tennis. In the winter I'll play lots of paddle, lots of football, lots of rugby. And then now I'm trying out triathlon. The first year I ever decided to do one. And I thought, what's the hardest triathlon you can do? It's called an Ironman. Okay, I'll sign up to that, see if I can do it. And it's also a really easy way to have if you have a fitness goal in the calendar, it's much easier to do your fitness goals because you know that I want to cross that finish line, becomes your milestone, rather than I want to lift this weight because I want to look a bit better in a t-shirt or whatever it may be. And then health-wise, I mean, when we first met, I was a vegetarian, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So now I eat meat, so people can keep listening. It's okay. I was vegan for a bit as well. And then, you eat meat again and suddenly you feel a lot better. You sleep better. You're stronger. Your libido goes up. And I realized, oh my God, I've been doing this for 6 years now. I'm not eating meat. What was I missing out on? And I eat pretty healthy. I think alcohol is worse for people than they might perhaps realize. And in the Bitcoin space, we're pretty bad with it. Like, a lot of our nights as Bitcoiners are boozy nights, and that's totally fine. Like I enjoy that very muchly, but it's something that I really try to dial back on. Like I'll try to be like as sober as possible until I have a blowout, and then as sober as possible. That could also be because I'm English and we just binge drink. I don't know.
Well, I think it's similar like with Czechs.
Really?
Probably.
Yeah. But
I think our drinking cultures are very compatible.
Yeah. It could be why there's so many stag do's coming to Czech Republic.
Yes.
And I think, just but like health is wealth.
Yeah, but every like year of age reminds you more and more that it's a bad idea to just spend the night drinking. Yeah. It's fun, and like you can forge relationships and have some amazing memories for sure. And you do some wild things, and particularly like the Afro Bitcoin conference. Those parties are just wild and they're hilarious. But most of the time now I'm as sober as can be, and that's all drugs. Like I'm pretty dialed in, but it's also because I'm also way more motivated now than I was when I was like 23, 24. Yeah. I think it comes back to what we were talking about originally, like the Ikigai and just being very driven by this thing, which I imagine your listeners are very driven by as well, right? They've got this, maybe they've got this goal in mind too. So let's see what the fans.
It's funny you're asking a Bitcoin journalist about health advice. Like, don't talk to a doctor.
I ask everybody about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever had any like gems, like something that you didn't know? Because that you knew. Like,
well, for example, I discovered like barefoot type of shoes through the podcast.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I wasn't aware about it at all. And after one guest, I just started to wear it, and that's been like 3 years now. And that's the only type of shoe I can wear, and
really
like anymore.
Man, I did do a period of it, but I couldn't do it as a runner. If you're a runner, like
it's probably different. Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to run a marathon barefoot?
I mean, in the barefoot shoe, but it's more loose, so probably it would be a good
I've got one because it's the one thing that my foot fit into, because barefoot shoes tend to have a wider toe box.
Yes.
So they've got the Ultra. I think it's Ultra, the brand that do the wide toe box. And that I've actually got them with me because I'm working out in those at the moment. But I do notice that because if you're a runner and you're used to a big heel drop and you go to a flat shoe, your calves are going to hurt like hell the next day.
Of course.
And also just your body is not used to taking that impact. So you're going to have like worse knees and worse hips. So if you're a runner, it's like a no-no. But like if and when I finish with endurance running, I think I'll probably go back to barefoot stuff. Yeah, I'm barefoot half the year in Portugal anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if you're trying for some like high level exercise, like a high performance exercise, then it's a little bit different than just like normal life. So that's why you have like these crazy shoes for basketball, because it makes sense. But what really sucks is that people start wearing like basketball shoes like Air Jordans all the time, because it's not meant for that. So for normal life, I think barefoot type of shoe is really great fit. But like if you're doing like sports at some advanced level, then of course you need some specific equipment for that.
Yeah, if you're going ice skating,
if it carries over from that sport into normal life and you basically just ruin your feet or whatever.
So it's Nike's fault.
Yeah,
we all got
it's Michael Jordan's fault.
Yeah. Interesting.
And another really nice like thing I got out of the podcast is kettlebells, like the type of
type got some at home.
So one of my guests was like a certified instructor in the strong.
Is it when we throw the kettlebell over a bar?
No. Like just a kettlebell school. Strong First. Yeah, he's a certified instructor in a Strong First. That's like Pavel Tsatsoulin's kind of international school.
Cool.
And he's one of the very few people that are like on the highest level of the certification. And I had him in my podcast. He's a Bitcoiner. He's working with the kettlebells. And afterwards, like a year after, I started to visit his gym, and it's really great exercise for me.
You're a kettlebell maxi now.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Yeah, but I think that's also it though. It's trying new stuff is all part of it, right? It just helps keep your life a bit more interesting, and constantly pursuing better and better is quite. It's a nice way to live, isn't it? I think that we get a bit trapped in just doing the same thing over and over again, and then being like, "Why am I upset? Why am I depressed?" And it's like, well, have you tried new shit recently? Throw something in the mix and see what sticks. And if it's flat shoes or whatever, maybe I'll go back to barefoot shoe for a while. Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions from my fans. So how many countries do you visit each year? Where do you like it best? Some life hacks. And a message to you, that guy who wrote the question never misses your videos. They are full of positive energy.
Oh, that's
some praise.
Thank you.
So how many countries do you visit each year? Do you have a count?
On average,
guess
10 to 12, I'd say, around that. It's probably more though. You always underestimate these things, don't you? Because you don't realize how long a year is.
It's more.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more than. I've probably been 10 just this year so far, actually. China, Thailand. What was that one before Thailand? Oh, the UAE, England, France, Spain, Portugal. Where are we? Czech Republic. Where else have I been?
Switzerland, maybe.
Oh, Switzerland.
Are you been there?
Yeah, good call. And is there a 10th that I've been to recently?
Have you been to South Africa this year?
Not this year. Going in January though.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're at 9 already, so I guess probably 10. Oh, I went to El Salvador too, so 10 already, and it's June, so I guess around 10ish, more than 10.
So where do you like it best? Is there some specific place that you really love returning to?
I mean, I really do like where I live in Portugal. I do love Portugal. For all its sort of quibbles, and it's, a developing country in the EU, and it's a little bit corrupt, it's a little bit like troubled, but it's also just a wonderful place with wonderful people and a great quality of life, and the Bitcoin community there is great. So yeah, I mean, living in Portugal is like living in the grey a bit. Like if you come from a Northern European country and go to Portugal, it can be a bit challenging sometimes. And I think that people do get a culture shock sometimes. But I think the Portuguese culture and British culture like mar quite well as well, because the Portuguese leave you to do your thing, and British people leave you to do your thing. And it's just like sort of respectful, polite, like stuff that I like. And yes, I still really do like Portugal, I guess. It's a great place to be Bitcoin as well, because if you hodl for a year, it's 0% tax. I love South Africa as you do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think where I quite like to go back to Cape Verde more. Really like Cape Verde. Like for people unsure, that's off the west coast of Africa. You sort of follow Senegal west and you hit these like 10-ish islands that were Portuguese in like the 1800s and then, 1900s too. And they speak sort of Portuguese and French and English and a Portuguese Creole. And it's one of those crazy countries that has like 3 currencies at once. And there's also some Bitcoin things going on there. and great fish, and there's good surf and good windsurfing. So yeah,
that's a good travel tip, because not a lot of people know about that.
Yeah, and it's with like a 4 hour, well, maybe probably 5 hour from you guys, but it's like 3.5, 4 hours from Portugal. And you are in Africa, but it's like not the Africa that your parents can go, oh, don't go there. It's super safe. It's like chill. And yeah, people are great. Tourism's great there.
Yeah. There's a question from my friend who's disabled, and he's considering like moving somewhere else in the world.
Nice.
So he has a question like, if there's a place that you would consider best for people with disability. Don't know if you like have any idea about that at all.
I guess
he was considering the Azores, the Azore Islands.
Oh wow, yeah, the Azores are beautiful.
You've been there, right?
Yeah, quite a few times. Love the Azores. There's also a few hardcore OG Bitcoiners there. A couple of French guys. It's very hilly in the Azores, and Portugal is in the EU, and the islands of Portugal are in the EU too. So they will have disability access. I'm just assuming a wheelchair, but I'm not sure for this gentleman. So there is access all over, and that would make it doable. But then it's also very, very mountainous, hilly islands. Yeah. So getting up there and getting around would be tricky. Plus the roads are very narrow. Can be a bit challenging. So I would probably move more towards Switzerland, but Switzerland, you're going to pay twice what you pay in Portugal, just because Switzerland is just more developed in that respect. But the main thing is like, back yourself. I love that you're going traveling and you're considering with a disability. I don't know what the disability is, but that's awesome. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, Africa, avoid. Yeah, it's just, it's going to be too. I mean, Paco used to joke that stairs in Africa are just. Have you ever had a good set of stairs in like sub-Saharan Africa? They're always like wonky and disjointed or whatever. So like that's
that's not the place.
Trying to think. Well, he's in Czech Republic right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, why don't you just sort of slowly work your way west to Portugal on the trains and see where your heart sort of sings and where you'd like to.
Yeah, I think Portugal is a good place to check out.
Yeah, even mainland Portugal. The air quality is so good as well. Like it's one of the least polluted countries in the EU. The food is fresh, and like the nature of the culture of food is there's not a lot of emphasis on ultra processed or processed food. Farming there's less fertilizers. It's quite like wholesome in that respect. And the access in Portugal itself, disability access, is great. So a great question there.
Awesome. So I guess the final question, and I like that one, what are the top 3 values you're pursuing in life?
Top 3 values I pursue in life? I guess it's kind of what we've discussed in the podcast, right? Like honesty, integrity. That's kind of one value. Let's put it together as one, or just integrity, I guess. The health aspect, or betterment. Can I call it betterment rather than health, and put health within that as like a subset of it? And then the third value, I don't know. I want to say not Epicurean, but kind of Epicurean. But I don't know what to say, enjoyment, entertainment, but like pleasure in a way.
Yeah.
Is that 3? So integrity, betterment, and pleasure. Ooh, it does sound a bit shitcoinery, man. I guess the first one isn't shitcoinery, but the second 2 kind of sound a bit shitcoiny.
No. I think these are great values, and especially you need to know how to relax. Like the third value is very important, because a lot of people just burn out if they feel like they still haven't done enough to relax, like in their day or in their month. So you really need to find what relaxes you. Just kick back sometimes. What do you actually do for that?
Well, if you'd asked me this question 18 months ago, I wouldn't have said the entertainment and the relaxing with that, because I was close to burning out, and then I did end up burning out. And now I realize how important it is, and I've sort of shifted the focus onto that. And that's why the key thing for me was having more interests outside of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can also become way too consuming and all encompassing. So what do I do to relax now? I mean, it is the sport, it's music. A lot of music, and the sport and doing endurance sport has helped me get back into music. You know, like when you're young and you're able to just listen to music and do nothing else. Like I find that I can be on the bike now, I can do that, and you'll go into like real like trances. It's equivalent to like being high, I guess. And you know, 45 minutes will pass and you'll be like, I don't know what's going on here, but it's brilliant. And I'm just in the music. You know, you're almost like seeing it, and it's just it takes you back to being a child when you're listening to your like first rock bands and you're listening and you're just like, wow, that's like a real guitar solo, that kind of stuff. And it's just, you know, it's food for the soul. And that's a key thing. And then I guess it's like mates and family, you know, just like chatting to my brothers or, well, ultimately my fiance, like I chew her ear off. So that's like my way of relaxing, I guess, is being able to talk to her at the end of a long day, and she'll bring me back down to earth and make me realize that the stuff I care about doesn't really matter, because it never really does it? So,
awesome.
Yeah. I think having a very, very, very loving, understandable partner, it's a really
that's the best life hack, basically.
Yeah. Oh, is get a woman that is like 10x you and marry her. That's the ultimate life advice.
Yeah, and try to like catch up to her love.
Yeah, and always be catching up.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Joe. I will link everything we have discussed. Please follow Joe Nakamoto. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much. I look forward to 100K views and for you doing your post-production.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you're an English speaker, you don't have to subscribe to this podcast because the other episodes are all in Czech. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to my podcast. This show is brought to you by Farfish.io, a non-custodial Bitcoin lending platform. Use code Stackuj for 30% off on your fees. And Brains.com, use code Stackuj to buy the Brains mini miner in their Brains store. Thank you, and until next time.